Ladies and gentlemen, they will laugh, they will whisper, they will question your worth before you have even begun. That is the way of the world. It talks more than it listens. But if you want to live a life that makes you proud, there is one truth you must never forget. You do not owe anyone an explanation for putting yourself first. True focus is silent. It does not ask for approval, it does not seek applause, and it definitely does not waste time trying to convince others. It begins in the stillness of your own decision that you will grow with or without anyone watching. Focus is not a loud declaration. It is a quiet commitment you make to yourself every single day. When you start focusing on yourself, it feels lonely, because the noise of the world starts to fade. The opinions, the gossip, the comparisons, they do not have the same power over you anymore. And that's uncomfortable at first. You feel like you're missing out. But slowly you realize you're not missing out. You're finally tuning in. You begin to notice how much energy you used to waste thinking about others. How much time you spend checking who's ahead of you. But now that energy goes into your work, your health, your mindset, your peace. You realize you were trying to impress people who weren't even paying attention, and now your only competition is your old self. Focus is silent because it doesn't need validation. It doesn't post every win. It doesn't share every struggle. It doesn't seek sympathy or praise. It just builds, quietly. You start waking up earlier. You eat better. You read more. You show up for yourself, even on the hard days. And nobody knows. But one day they will. The silence of your focus is not weakness. It's your weapon. Because while others are busy watching each other, you are mastering your craft. You are becoming the person they never saw coming. You are not chasing success to show them. You are building success because you deserve it. You stop explaining why you are doing what you're doing. You stop feeling guilty for choosing solitude over parties, for choosing growth over gossip. You stop proving yourself, because people who don't see your vision will never understand your journey. The best part, focus doesn't need to be perfect. You will mess up. You will have lazy days. But because you are focused, you will bounce back faster. You won't spiral. You won't give up. You will adjust, realign, and return. Again and again. You also learn to say no. No to distractions. No to people who drain you. No to opportunities that look good but don't feel right. Your focus teaches you what matters and what doesn't. And then one day, your silence becomes success. Your quiet work becomes loud results. People will look at you and ask, "When did this happen?" And you'll smile. Because you know it happened every day you chose yourself. Every day you focused, when it was easier to quit. You do not need to announce your growth. You do not need to shout your plans. Just plant, water, and wait. Let your focus do the talking. And when the time comes, let your life be the loudest thing in the room. Stop competing. Start creating. Your only race is with yesterday's you. That single mindset shift can change your entire life. From school to social media to real-life conversations, we are constantly trained to look sideways, to compare, to copy, to compete. But no one ever tells you that comparison is the thief of peace, and competition often makes you forget who you truly are. The truth is, when you compete with others, you live by their timeline, their definition of success, their pace. You begin to feel like you are behind, even if you are doing just fine. You start doubting your path just because someone else's journey looks prettier from the outside. But what if you stop looking left and right? What if the only person you measured yourself against was the person you were yesterday? Imagine that. Imagine waking up and asking, "Am I better than I was yesterday?" Not better than your cousin, your classmate, your colleague, just you. Because that is the only person you're supposed to outgrow. When you stop competing with the world and start creating your own world, you unlock a new kind of power, a quiet, steady, powerful kind of growth that doesn't depend on beating someone. It depends on becoming someone. The problem with competition is that it often makes you reactive. You start doing things just to win. You stop listening to yourself. You rush. You stress. You burn out. Because your entire focus is on being better than someone who might not even be paying attention to you. And when you lose, it crushes you. Not because you failed, but because you built your worth around winning. That is why creating is so different. Creating comes from within. It's not about proving, it's about expressing. It's not about being ahead, it's about being real. When you create, you build something that wasn't there before. A new idea, a new skill, a new version of yourself. You begin to enjoy the process, not just the outcome. You slow down, but you become sharper. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building substance. You stop mimicking and start innovating. Your voice becomes stronger. Your vision becomes clearer. And most importantly, your confidence becomes rooted in your own journey. There is nothing wrong with healthy inspiration. Looking up to someone is fine. But when you constantly compare your day 1 to someone else's year 10, you're being unfair to yourself. You don't see their struggles. You don't know their sacrifices. You don't feel their fears. So how can you judge your journey using their milestones? Real growth is invisible in the beginning. It is messy. It is slow. And it does not come with likes or applause. That's why you need to shift from performing for others to transforming yourself. Every time you compete with yesterday's version of you, you get closer to who you are meant to be. Maybe yesterday you gave up too easily. Today you try again. Maybe yesterday you were afraid to speak up. Today you say one sentence louder. That is winning. Quiet, personal, honest winning. You also start appreciating others more. When you're no longer trying to outshine everyone, you start celebrating them. Their light doesn't threaten yours anymore. You are too busy building your own. Your circle becomes more peaceful. Your mind becomes more focused. Your work becomes more meaningful. Because you are no longer playing someone else's game. You are building your own table, at your own pace, with your own rules. Energy flows where attention goes. Guard your focus like treasure. Every thought you choose, every distraction you allow, every minute you waste on what does not matter is energy stolen from what could have changed your life. Focus is not about being busy, it is about being intentional. Most people are not tired because they work hard. They are tired because they are scattered, pulled in 10 directions, always reacting, never creating. And slowly, they burn out without even realizing they never moved forward. We live in a world that is constantly screaming for our attention. Notifications, opinions, news, comparison, chaos. But what if you stopped giving your energy away so easily? What if you treated your focus like gold, something rare, something valuable, something you do not just hand out to everything and everyone? That shift can turn ordinary days into extraordinary progress. When you wake up, your mind is like a clean slate. What you choose to put on it decides how your day unfolds. If you start by checking your phone, scrolling through meaningless posts, letting other people's lives dictate your emotions, you have already handed over your power. You are starting your day with noise, not purpose. But if you begin by grounding yourself, thinking about your goals, your purpose, your plans, you take control. You direct your energy. You become the author, not the audience. People think multitasking is a superpower, but it is not. It is a silent thief. You feel productive, but you are just spinning in circles. True productivity comes when your energy is locked into one thing, fully, deeply, with no leaking thoughts dragging you away. That is how breakthroughs happen. Not by doing everything, but by doing one thing with total focus. You also begin to notice how people around you affect your focus. Some drain you, some distract you, some make you question your own worth. Guard your space, protect your peace, learn to say no. Not every conversation deserves your reply. Not every drama needs your comment. Not every opportunity is aligned with your vision. The more focused you are, the more selective you become. And that is not arrogance. It is clarity. There is power in routine. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about repetition. If you want results, build a life where your focus does not depend on motivation. Make it a habit. Make it boring if you have to. But stay consistent. That is where the magic lives. Not in bursts of excitement, but in quiet, committed energy poured into what matters. And remember, your environment matters. You cannot stay focused if you are surrounded by chaos. Clean your space. Turn off distractions. Set boundaries. Create a world around you that supports your best self. Because your energy cannot bloom in a place that constantly pulls you away from yourself. Every hour spent focused on your growth is an investment. It compounds. It builds. It creates results that others call luck, but are really just the fruit of hidden effort. You do not have to work harder. You have to work clearer. Put your attention where it counts. Feed what feeds you back. There will always be noise. There will always be options. But your job is to remember why you started. Keep your focus fixed on that reason. Let it be the anchor in the storm. Let it be the compass when you are lost. Let it be the fire when you are tired. Because the moment you start guarding your energy like it is sacred, your whole life starts to shift. Become so good they ask how, not why. When you are just starting out, people will always ask why you are doing it, why you are wasting time, why you think it will work, why you are different from everyone else who tried and failed. The why questions are not always rooted in concern. Many times, they are rooted in doubt. People project their own limitations onto others because it is easier to mock a dream than admit they gave up on their own. But you do not have to answer those questions. You do not have to justify your hunger, your passion, your commitment to growth. You just have to become so good that the question changes from why to how. How did you do it? How did you stay focused when no one believed in you? How did you turn nothing into something? That shift does not come overnight. It comes through the grind, the quiet, repetitive, often unnoticed work that most people avoid. You become so good by showing up again and again, long after the excitement fades. You improve not because someone is watching, but because you refuse to stay where you are. You push yourself in silence, while others look for shortcuts. There is no secret formula. There is no magic trick. The people who rise to the top are not always the most talented, but they are almost always the most consistent. They pay attention to the details. They refine their craft. They treat every small task with the respect of something bigger. They do not chase praise. They chase mastery. Because when you commit to being excellent at what you do, the world eventually takes notice. It is easy to talk big. It is easy to post quotes and act motivated for a few days. But true growth shows up when it gets hard, when you are tired, when you are doubting yourself, when no one claps for your effort. Becoming so good is not about ego. It is about discipline. It is about deciding that your work, your purpose, your journey deserves your full attention. And when you give it that, results follow. Slowly, steadily, and powerfully. The best part is, you do not need to announce your progress. Let your improvement do the talking. Let your success walk into the room before you do. You do not have to prove your worth to anyone who cannot see it. You just have to keep building. Because one day the same people who questioned you will ask to learn from you. Not because you convinced them, but because your actions became undeniable. When people ask how, it is because they are finally ready to listen. And that only happens when you show results they cannot ignore. That is why you do not need to fight for attention. You need to fight for excellence. Every time you study when you feel like quitting, every time you practice when others are partying, every time you stay humble when success starts to show, you are becoming the version of yourself that people cannot overlook. It is not about being flashy. It is about being sharp, clear, focused, grounded, becoming so good that people pause when they see your work, that they cannot help but respect your effort, your precision, your journey. They stop asking if it is possible. They start asking how you did it. And that shift is everything. Because it means you turned doubt into inspiration, questions into admiration, and silence into a standing ovation. Growth is messy, silent, and misunderstood. Embrace it anyway. It is not the highlight reel people post. It is not neat rows of achievements lined up like trophies. Real growth does not care about timing, image, or convenience. It comes when life pushes you into uncomfortable spaces, when you are forced to look at your own reflection and admit that something needs to change, and it is not graceful. It is often clumsy. You fall, you get up, you repeat. That is growth, not pretty, but powerful. Everyone talks about transformation as if it's some magical moment of clarity. But real growth is a slow burn, a quiet war between who you were and who you are trying to become. It happens in the late nights when you doubt yourself, in the early mornings when you choose discipline over distraction, in the moments when you want to quit, but you don't. Growth is not the loud moment of success. It is the silent decision to keep going when no one is watching. It is misunderstood because the world loves results, not the process. People celebrate you when you shine, but they are silent when you are struggling in the dark. They assume if you are quiet, you are doing nothing. If you are distant, you are lost. But the truth is, sometimes growth requires distance, silence, retreat. You are not lost. You are in progress. And not everyone will understand that. They will misread your silence as failure. They will misjudge your stillness as weakness. But you will know. Deep down you will know that something inside you is shifting. There are times when growth feels like losing people, losing comfort, losing versions of yourself that no longer fit. That is part of the journey. You outgrow relationships, environments, and even dreams. It is painful, but it is necessary. You are not meant to stay the same. Evolution requires shedding old skin. And sometimes the only way to know who you are becoming is to let go of who you thought you were supposed to be. Do not expect applause during your growth phase. Do not wait for validation. Most of the time, the biggest breakthroughs come in the quietest seasons, when nothing on the outside is changing, but everything inside is being rewritten. Your mindset, your habits, your beliefs. These shifts are invisible to the world, but they are the foundation of everything you are about to build. You also realize that growth is not linear. Some days you feel unstoppable, other days you feel broken. Both are part of the process. Healing does not come in straight lines. Confidence is not permanent. Motivation fluctuates. But what matters is that you show up, that you stay in the ring, even when the fight feels unfair. Because every time you choose growth over comfort, you become stronger. People will question you. They will ask why you've changed, why you're not the same, why you've gone quiet, and you may not have the words to explain it. That's okay. Growth isn't always easy to describe. Worse isn't always easy to describe. Sometimes you are learning lessons, even you don't fully understand yet. But keep going. Keep building. Keep trusting that this mess you are in is not the end. It's the beginning of something better. Not everyone will see the work you're doing on yourself. Not everyone will get it. Some will doubt you. Some will leave. But the right people, the ones meant for your future, will respect your growth, even if they don't understand it yet. So allow yourself to be misunderstood. Let your silence speak. Let the mess teach you. Let the confusion build clarity. Because when the dust settles and the results arrive, it will all make sense. Quiet discipline is louder than loud opinions. In a world that cannot stop talking, where everyone has something to say, where judgment is instant and opinions fly faster than facts, there is something deeply powerful about the person who simply does the work. No drama, no excuses, no announcements, just steady, focused, quiet action. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not trend. It does not go viral. But it transforms lives from the inside out. The person who builds their future in silence often builds the strongest one because they are not distracted by the noise outside. Loud opinions often come from people who are not even walking in your shoes. They do not know your past, your fears, your plans, and still, they will talk. They will tell you what you should be doing, who you should be, what you should let go of. If you listen too closely, you start living for their approval instead of your own purpose. That is why discipline matters. It keeps you anchored. It reminds you that you are not here to impress the world. You are here to change yours. Quiet discipline is about the small choices. Waking up when you do not feel like it. Showing up when no one is watching. Saying no to things that give short-term pleasure and yes to things that bring long-term growth. It is boring. It is repetitive. But it is also the birthplace of every great achievement. While others post about potential, you are busy becoming. While others debate what works, you are testing, failing, learning, and trying again. The person who talks the loudest about success is usually still chasing it. But the person with quiet discipline does not need to talk. Their life starts speaking for them, their health improves, their mindset shifts, their confidence grows. Not because they are better than anyone else, but because they stayed consistent when it was easier to quit. They chose growth when it was invisible, when it felt thankless, when no one clapped for them. Opinions are easy to give and cheap to collect. They change with moods, with trends, with fear. But discipline stays. It holds you when motivation leaves. It grounds you when life gets messy. It keeps you focused when distractions try to pull you in 10 directions. And it whispers, keep going, even when everything else says stop. That whisper is louder than any external noise, if you train yourself to hear it. People often mistake silence for weakness, but silence, when filled with discipline, is strength in its most refined form. You are not silent because you have nothing to say. You are silent because you are working on something worth showing. And when the time is right, your results will speak. Your life will become the proof. You will not have to argue with opinions, because facts are hard to debate. And discipline brings results that cannot be denied. There will always be people who talk about what they would do, what they plan to do, what they almost did. But very few will do it. Very few will choose the discomfort of discipline over the ease of distraction. Very few will sacrifice their weekends, their comfort zones, their excuses for something greater. But the ones who do, the ones who stay quiet and keep showing up, they change everything. Quiet discipline does not chase attention. It chases alignment. It is not about proving people wrong. It is about proving to yourself that you can follow through, that you can be trusted with your own dreams, that you can stay committed even when the rewards are not instant. That kind of power cannot be faked. It is built, one silent day at a time. Success does not speak in noise. It echoes in results. In a world that worships attention, it is easy to confuse visibility with value. People are constantly shouting about what they are doing, how busy they are, how close they are to greatness. But success is not loud. It does not need to be. It is not the one making all the noise. It is the one being quietly built in the background, showing up later when it is ready, without a single warning. Real success is not found in the chaos of noise, but in the clarity of consistent action. There is something powerful about a person who does not talk about every move they make, who does not need to prove anything to anyone, who works in silence, away from the spotlight, but when their work shows up, it changes the game. These people are not driven by applause. They are driven by purpose. They are not chasing likes. They are chasing legacy. You will find that most of the people who talk the most about what they are going to do rarely finish what they start. That is because noise can be a mask, a distraction, a shield from actually doing the uncomfortable work that growth requires. Talking about your plans gives a short-term sense of accomplishment, but it does not move the needle. It does not build the skill. It does not deliver the outcome. The world is full of people with potential, but only a few turn it into progress. And that progress happens quietly, behind closed doors, through effort that no one claps for. Real success is built on routines, habits, discipline, sacrifice. It is not always glamorous. It is not always shared. But every drop of effort poured into your craft adds up. It builds silently, like a river carving stone, day after day, step by step. Then one day, what was once invisible becomes undeniable, and you do not need to explain it. Your results echo louder than any announcement ever could. When you stop focusing on noise, you start hearing yourself. You reconnect with what truly matters. You realize that validation from others is a fragile fuel. It runs out quickly. But internal drive, rooted in purpose, lasts longer. It keeps you grounded when success comes, and it keeps you going when it does not. That's the kind of success that sustains, the kind that is not built on trends, but on truth. You also become harder to shake, because when your success is real, not performed, it does not fall apart when people stop watching. You do not crumble at criticism. You do not shrink in silence, because you did not build it for noise. You built it for impact. That's what makes it last. That's what makes it echo. Even after the room goes quiet, people will ask where you've been, why you've been so quiet, and you will smile, knowing that while they were watching others, you were watching your craft. While they were busy being seen, you were busy becoming. While they were chasing attention, you were chasing mastery. And now your results speak. Without noise, without hype, without needing to prove. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them wonder. You have a bigger job to build something that speaks for itself. Something that does not need captions or filters or constant defense. Success that is real does not need noise. It needs focus, work, time. And when it arrives, it makes a sound no volume can match. The sound of someone who stayed true, stayed committed, stayed ready. Success that echoes in the hearts of those who see it and cannot forget it. What they think is your downfall may be your turning point. It is strange how the world is so quick to label someone as done, broken, failed, lost. People love stories of success, but they often turn their backs when someone stumbles. They forget that every strong tree was once a struggling seed. Every legend was once overlooked. Every rise began after a fall that seemed permanent. What looks like the end to them might be the beginning for you. When people see you fall, they assume you will stay there. They whisper, they judge, they keep score. But what they cannot see is what is happening inside you, the fire quietly being lit in your chest, the decision you make in silence to rise again, the way you teach yourself to stand taller than you ever did before. That is the part they miss. Because turning points never come with announcements. They come quietly when you choose not to give up. Failure is never the full stop. It is a comma, a breath, a pause that gives you a chance to shift directions. Some of your greatest strength will come from moments that almost broke you. Not because pain is noble, but because surviving it gives you a clarity that comfort never could. You begin to see what matters. You begin to understand who is truly there for you. You begin to hear your own voice louder than the noise around you. When they say you are not good enough, and you keep going anyway, that is your turning point. When you lose something or someone and still choose to heal, that is your turning point. When you are rejected, laughed at, ignored, and still choose to build, that is your turning point. These moments do not feel like power while they are happening. They feel like silence, sadness, confusion. But later, when you look back, you will realize that was the moment you became unstoppable. You do not need the world's applause to rise. You do not need their understanding to grow. Your journey is yours, and sometimes it is the very thing they think will finish you that forces you to unlock a version of yourself you never knew existed. The version that fights back, the version that rebuilds, the version that writes a new story when the old one is burned down. People will talk. They always do. Let them. You are not here to make everyone comfortable. You are here to grow, to stretch, to fall if needed, and then to fly in a direction they never expected. Your so-called downfall can be your greatest lesson. It can teach you how to be independent. It can show you who your real friends are. It can humble you, sharpen you, and open doors that were never visible before you hit the ground. There is something sacred about starting over. When everything is stripped away, status, titles, expectations, you are left with your essence. Your raw, real self. That is where strength begins. Not in pretending everything is fine, but in accepting that it is not, and choosing to rise anyway. The world often only claps when you succeed, but you need to learn to clap for yourself when you survive. When you keep going. When you refuse to let one chapter define your entire book. Your downfall is not your identity. It is a scene, not the whole movie. What matters is what you do next, how you show up after the fall, and how you turn pain into power. The ones who wrote you off will be the ones reading about your rise, wondering how you did it without their help.